Hey, new patient group and Right Chat Nation. Welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian right here. Welcome into episode 9 of season 6, episode 91 overall, the new patient group podcast as we keep rolling along here in 2023. Good one for you today. Going to be talking about really what's definitely been my number one challenge 10 years now, and will be 11 years in November. I've had new patient group. And it's just this journey that I've been on personally inside mostly orthodontics, as most of you all know. Of course, we have dentists and plastic surgeons and financial firms and restaurants and an array of customers out there. But the majority of our customer base remains in the orthodontic industry, profession, if you will. And it's inevitably, regardless if it's an ortho or another type of doctor, today I'm going to talk about inevitably what my vision was when I started New Patient Group 10 years ago, why it was needed, how we took what made me very successful over in the plastic surgery world. We scaled one practice all the way up to 250 in multiple countries. I'm going to talk about some of the philosophies that made that work so well. And I'm going to talk about how we apply those to the family-owned, privately owned practices, as well as ones that have multiple locations. But I'm going to be talking about it in a way today that hopefully challenges all of you to think differently like we do on here as it relates to the events that you keep taking your teams to. There's a specific reason I'm going to talk about this topic today. I had a lot of different ones on my mind. I chose this one because of something that we're going to be doing and launching for the first time ever in January 2024 that I'm very excited about. And I'm going to tie that in today, and I think it's going to be a great one. Before we get started, let's fire up the music.
The chaos of owning your own business is real, but it doesn't have to be that way. In this economy, there's a better way to grow your practice and make more money while working, spending, and stressing less. And the recipe to make it happen is right here. Welcome to Season 6 of the New Patient Group audio experience, a podcast dedicated to forward-thinking doctors that want less headaches and more personal and financial freedom. And now your host, he's the founder and CEO of New Patient Group, co-founder of Right Chat, and a trusted speaker for Invisalign, OrthoFi, dental monitoring, and others, Brian Wright.
Hey everybody, welcome in. If you're watching over on YouTube, hey there, appreciate your support out there. A couple quick updates for you. Upcoming orthopreneurs. Dr. Regina Blevins and I are going to be on stage together for a private invite event only on Thursday night. And that's going to be, again, a private invite only by Align Technology, makers of Invisalign. If you're interested in joining that, we're going to be talking about a really cool topic. We're going to be diving into the consumer journey. We're going to talk about things she does inside her practice, the many-year journey she's been on with New Patient Group and how it's worked for her, as well as it's going to be kind of business coach to doctor. And we're going to kind of bounce things back and forth from the things that we teach and how she does it inside her office as well. It's going to be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that event. Thursday afternoon, before that event, actually, we're going to be doing a private invite-only lunch. That'll just be me. It'll be about an hour long. And then Friday afternoon at Orthopreneurs, got another private invite-only lunch. That'll be me as well. So looking forward to those 3 events. Hopefully some podcast listeners out there. Hopefully you'll be in the audience. Like I say so many times on here, it's great to see and put faces to the numbers that we see over on the admin side of our downloads and all of our subscribers and followers, things like that. So that'll be a great event. This one, barring anything that's a catastrophe, this will be the last podcast that is from this broadcast booth. And it's a little sentimental in that, when we moved into this house 5-6 years ago, dumped quite a bit of money into an investment that I thought was worth it, and it has been. And we gutted out the home office, and we turned it into what we do, our on-demand courses, that whether they be free or you can invest in online at newpatientgroup.com. Did the podcast here. It's also just kind of a nice place to hang out and, play some cards and, do whatever. And it's been a great run with this podcast. We've really built a great following over the past 5 or 6 years with the podcast and just what we talk about on here. So the next podcast that will come out will be in October. We will be in our new house in Colorado Springs and haven't decided exactly how I'm going to set that house up yet. In Colorado, we will have a basement. The basement is pretty awesome in that house, so I don't know if I'm going to go there. It does have a dedicated office on the first floor, so I may go the studio out of there. So we'll see, an array of things. So come October, make sure to maybe take a look over on our YouTube station and see. Most likely it won't be the built-out studio. It'll kind of be a temporary one out of the house. But it's kind of bittersweet. But needless to say, a lot of you, especially the new patient group customers, Right Check customers, you know how bad I've wanted out of here and into a place like Colorado Springs for years. So I really appreciate a lot of the excitement and support you've shown me, while we've been trying to take this venture to a different city out of Houston. So we've got it. Looks like we'll be closing on the house somewhere around September 12-ish, 13, right in there, next month. Or this month. So looking forward to it, and make sure to check us out on the YouTube station to see any changes. Today, we're going to be talking about there's a lot of obvious things to me from a business principle standpoint, a marketing standpoint, a leadership standpoint, culture standpoint, how you train your team to function whenever you're not looking. There's a lot of things that on the surface I sit there and go, how could people not see these things? The non-clinical experiences that make up the majority of your practice. How could people not understand that you need your hourly employees trained on the things that they do for you every day, yet if they went and handed their resume to any company outside of orthodontics, as an example, to do the equivalent of the same thing, they most likely would not be hired? And it's frustrating to me, and it was frustrating to me back when I had the plastic surgery practices, when it was Shea was the name of our corporation, and we started, there was one location in Los Angeles, and they hired me to run it, and eventually I was the CEO of the organization, and we became a mass powerhouse. We became a mass powerhouse with no advertising. We became a mass powerhouse by doing the things that we teach you on this podcast, and when we go in and help practices with new patient group, is that we trained and had a commitment to training our hourly employees in a way that no other plastic surgery company, no hotel, no restaurant would ever commit to doing. And we also committed to having the finest clinical experience possible. And regardless of what the paper data showed me, I would invest in the absolute finest technologies, finest CE for the plastic surgeons. And we were the absolute best on both the clinical side and the non-clinical side. And that is few and far between from a corporation standpoint. Most corporations, as they scale, the clinical quality goes away, no different than as you scale a restaurant, the food quality and the attention to detail, et cetera, goes away. Well, we had the recipe, and it was one of the most finest run organizations you could possibly imagine. But I remember, as we started to scale, one of my philosophies was, looking at the practice environment. It's the same philosophy that we look at now. When a new patient walks through your door, the process of how they're greeted, the eye contact that whoever is in charge of greeting that person, having them not sit down, how the hand is shaken, the verbiage that's used that comes out of their mouth, being that's really the first time they've actually met you face to face. It's not the first time they've met you. Technically, that is over the new patient call, and the way we teach it, that should be on your YouTube station. They should be able to get to know, like, trust you before they even decide to pick up the phone, how your website looks and feels, etc. And we did all that as well, too. The same things that we do for new patient group customers and all the things that we have under one roof is the same exact philosophies and recipe and ingredients to the recipe that I use to really kick everyone's butt in the plastic surgery world. As fine as we were clinically, I understood that none of that mattered if the team did not know how to sell, if their hospitality skill sets, their customer service skill sets, verbiage, presentation, understanding the psychology of the consumer, all the things you hear me talk about, I knew first and foremost that was going to be front and center of our organization. And we were going to be able to charge high dollar for it because of that. And that's exactly how it played out. The commitment to training and role-playing our people, the commitment we had to culture build, the commitment that we had training the plastic surgeons on how to lead their individual practice, or maybe they worked in a couple practices, that never wavered, and it was a hard commitment, and it's one of the reasons why I'm convinced a lot of people out there don't commit to this kind of thing is because it's hard. It is hard to block time and have the discipline of realizing not seeing patients for an hour or 2 hours every week and replacing that with practice and role plays and shooting great social media content and working on your business rather than being stuck inside your practice all the time far supersedes the importance of jamming patients in for that hour or 2 hours every single week. It's a hard mindset from a consulting standpoint. The people that buy and are longtime customers of New Patient Group, the things that you hear about on this podcast and that I talk about, the reason they are customers is they totally buy into the philosophy. Well, there's a lot of people out there, and I've to the life of me, I don't understand it. They can't wrap their head around why they have to practice in order to be great in the game. It's the whole philosophy, how would your basketball team be if they played in the game all the time and never had practice? Well, that's a lot of you out there. That's just what you do every single day. It's 9 to 5, you're crazy, you're chaotic. It doesn't have to be that way. It's only that way because of the business and clinical decisions you make inside your practice. So we had this commitment to training our people from top down, relentlessly, endlessly, putting them in very challenging role play and practice situations. And it really made us dominate, and it really created a culture where the employees were very respectful that not only did we want to be the best clinically, they also completely bought into the culture of the way the Ritz-Carlton looks at it, where the Ritz-Carlton very much knows that their hotel rooms aren't that much better than a lot of other hotels that are far cheaper. The reality is they understand that the true investment when you purchase and stay a couple nights at the Ritz-Carlton is not the rooms. It's the non-room experience. Same way for all of you. When people invest high dollar, it's the non-clinical experiences that they're going to relate to and remember the most. Yet there are so many people out there that for whatever reason, no matter how many times over the past decade plus that I've talked about this, still do what I'm about to talk about today. And the reason I brought this up today, the reason why I chose this topic, I said in the front end, there was a lot of different things that I was trying to decide. The past, I've said this before on podcasts, as you do a podcast and then you go, 30-ish days before the next podcast launches, because this is a contemporary radio show, very rarely do I do guests. I do look to change that a little bit. I do want to bring in maybe a couple guests a year at least, so you can hear their perspective on a lot of the things that we talk about on here. But rarely, even if we do that, rarely do I do guests. So your eyes and ears are really open all the time, looking for just ideas and things to justify, what you believe in and what you install into practices, into businesses. And over the past 30 days, some things that have happened inside practices that I was in, and just some Zoom sessions that I've had, and just daily life as you're interacting with companies, all kinds of ideas, some even new ones, but just, other ones that just I had on the podcast list really came to mind. But the reason I chose today, and I'm going to tie everything together that I've been talking about. The reason I chose today is because, and I want to give some major props to the New Patient Group docs. We had a really good mastermind meeting last month. And the second Wednesday of every month around 7 o'clock Central, we meet on Zoom. We come together and we usually go over, it's not always, but usually we go over more in depth the podcast topic that I had for that month. And we get a nice round table going and we get a nice discussion going. I always think some good things come from those meetings. We challenge each other. It's just an excellent group of men and women. Well, one of the things that I had been contemplating now for a while is an event that we have specific to our customers, as well as some special invites. And those special invites really are exclusive to some of you as podcast listeners. You can reach out. All you have to do is go to newpatientgroup.com, or you can go to rightchat.com, and in whichever contact request form that you submit, just in the comments section, say that I would like to be a part of NPG Iconic next year. So that's what we're calling it. It's New Patient Group and Right Chat Iconic, excuse me. So ICONIC, Iconic. And what the event, kind of the vision I have for the event was initially, first of all, going to be in 2025. Why I want to give some major props to the New Patient Group doctors is they really pushed me to do this in 2024. One of the best compliments that I get and it may be the best compliment I get, but whether it's the best or not doesn't matter. It's definitely on the top of list. Is, Brian, after working with you guys, all the events out there, they're just outdated. We don't learn anything from it. The speakers are still talking as if it was 5 or 10 years ago. They just have clinicians, and it's not that I don't want to learn from, my fellow, clinicians and just my peers, my comrades. It's not that we don't. It's that we're tired of it. It's the same old, same old. And you don't hear anything truly innovative at these events. And we feel like we should be teaching the speakers at these events what to do. And it's such a good compliment because we pride ourselves here on looking at the practice environment and flipping every single thing that's ever been taught inside whatever industry you're in. If you're a restaurant listening out there, how the phone call goes, how you greet people, how your waiters talk, all of that stuff, we flip completely on its head. And we flip the orthodontic industry completely, or the orthodontic practice environment completely on its head. And the reality is it works. And it works every single time as long as the team and the doctor are coachable. And the beauty part is the ones that are coachable are so few and far between that this is why it allows you to separate yourself and be so unique from the other opinions in your area. Because for every coachable person, there's hundreds upon hundreds of people out there that are simply not coachable. So that's, again, why going back to inside your doors is always produces the best return on investment, because so few people do it. It's hard work. It takes dedication. It takes patience. All the things that, we pretty much just suck at as humans. I mean, it really has to take some motivation, accountability, and just some patience. Well, this compliment that a lot of you give me out there, really pushed me to want to do an event that was an event designed for entrepreneurs, experts in, that come from outside the orthodontic industry, the dental industry, et cetera, and have an event that really, really moves the needle and makes you as uncomfortable as you possibly can be. And, as you go in your daily life, I've said this 1,000 times on here, there's so many things that happen every single day. You walk into a place and how they greet you poorly or how they don't greet you at all, how a phone call is handled, how a complaint, when you call an 800 number, how they handle that situation. If you have your eyes and ears open, you should be able to go, crap, how are my people doing that? I've never trained them. I did a podcast last month, that talked a little about this, but one of the best signs or best traits, if you will, of a professional baseball umpire, honestly, any umpire at any level, but the pros, we are the best at doing it, is how you handle difficult situations, how you turn, what could be an explosion, and how do you calm that and turn it into a positive. It's a unique skill set. It's a trainable skill set that very few business owners train their people on. So right now, if I called because I was mad I couldn't get an appointment when I wanted, how would your Susie up front handle it? And I can promise you she wouldn't handle it well. Why? You don't train her. Or you go to events with people that have zero qualifications to train anybody on those type of non-clinical skill sets. And therein lies why I wanted to do this event, is that we have MPG and Right Chat Iconic coming up. It's going to be the second weekend in January in Colorado Springs. I have not found the exact location yet because Colorado Springs is new to my family and I. We're just moving there. So I've got to dig. I've got to hunt down the hotel. It's going to be, we're going to put together the best type of event we can. And what this event, like I said, is this event is going to be us role-playing and practicing and putting team members through drills and exercises in front of the whole audience and putting team members in uncomfortable positions to push themselves past their limits, putting doctors in uncomfortable positions to push themselves past their limits, and teaching true sales, true consumer psychology, true verbiage and presentation skills with a goal of flipping everything you've ever learned from somebody that used to work inside a practice completely 100% on its head. One of the challenges I've had, and this goes back to what I said on the front end, is, this is probably it is the single biggest challenge I've had in this industry. And I've made, I would say, some progress. But if you told me 10 plus years ago when I was starting New Patient Group with the vision that I had, the vision was, okay, take everything you need to really grow your business and make your practice run great without having to advertise, put it under one roof, and do the things that made your plastic surgery practices so successful, and do those for other people. And of course, over the years, we've innovated and added new things and tweaked things because the consumer is always changing, which drives me nuts because there's so many people in this industry. Their program's the same as it was 20 years ago. It's unbelievable. Yet there's people out there, and you may be one listening. You still are investing in inside your industry consultants that teach the same damn thing today as they did 15 years ago. Do you think the industry and the consumer is the same today? No. If their training is not changing every year, 2, 3 years, they're so far behind, and then so are you, because now you're the one they're helping. But what has been the most difficult thing for me, by far, is convincing companies, one, that I work with and speak for, that you've got to put speakers on stage that are non-clinicians, that are true entrepreneurs, that understand the ins and outs of a small business, that understand that it's very different when you own a small business than it is a corporation. The two could not be two polar opposites of each other if you tried. Put a big name entrepreneur on stage and have them teach the audiences things that the audience can use their imagination and go, that's awesome. Here are 5 different ways I can go back to my practice, my restaurant, my plumbing company, my law firm, whatever it may be, and apply that in its own unique way. But what does this industry do? Is it's constant. You have, whether it be orthopreneurs, whether it be AAO, whether it be NISO, whether it be Synergy, and I speak at all these events. So it's not about, that they're bad events. They're not bad events. But who speaks there every time? And it's inside your practice bubble, industry bubble people. And those people could not get hired to speak at any kind of entrepreneur event like the Entrepreneurial Summit, which is a beautiful event for all of you to attend. They couldn't get hired there because the things they teach, the equivalent of the non-clinical things that go on inside the practice every day, the things that they're teaching you, the audience would laugh them off the stage. Maybe sounded mean and harsh, but it's the reality of the situation. Like, no famous entrepreneur, you take the Shark Tank people, would they come and listen to the speakers inside the orthodontic event? And the answer is no. So my response is, why would you? It's the same thing, no matter what type of business you own. Salesmanship skills, if you're trying to sell something, when somebody has multiple choices where to buy it, that is sales. If you are trying to sell something where there's multiple places to buy it, your verbiage and presentation and how you provide uniqueness and value must be different, because it's no longer, when you're a commodity, there's 2 things that happen overnight in a commoditized industry. 1, your sale is not your product. So take Invisalign or braces. That is not what you're selling. Why? Because I can buy it in 20 other practices within 25 minutes of my house. Therefore, that's not your sale. 2 is the customer's in charge. And you have to learn how to sell that customer on doing it your way while making them feel special and offering the unexpected at the same time. That is a unique skill set that very few companies have. And the ones that do, they're called famous. And they're called famous for a reason. Like the Ritz. Right? Their marketing plan encompasses almost everything inside their doors. Yet you tell that to people and you look at their marketing plan, and probably most of you listening out there, most of the marketing dollars you're spending continues to be outside your doors. One of the hardest sells I've had in this industry is convincing people to stop doing pay-per-click, especially during a down economy, because you can jack up your pay-per-click costs all you want. And all you're going to do is still get in the way of people that don't have money to spend. If you took the same money you're spending on pay-per-click and then reinvested it inside your doors on phone training, presenting money properly, plugging the leaky hole in your OBS program, following up better in your pending treatment program, reducing no-shows 30 to 50%, right there you just grew $400,000 or $500,000. Just right there. You just had the best year of your life without doing one dime of advertising from a pay-per-click standpoint. But what I'm talking about here in conjunction is why the ones who do commit to it have such a unique over-the-top advantage, because they realize that the Walt Disneys, the Ritz-Carltons of the world, that's where the money's spent. And the point that all this leads to is the best events that you're likely never to take your team to are the ones that are outside your bubble. And they're all over the place. Like the Entrepreneurial Summit is just one that I mentioned too. There's a marketing expo in Los Angeles. There are ones that, Tony Robbins puts on. There are ones that if you Google, they're all over the place. Are they all great? By no means are they all great. But the beauty for all of you, based on what you're being taught at these events, is that you could go to a bad one and it would still have better speakers and you would still learn more than the events you keep spending so much money on attending. Now, of course, there's exceptions to this. If you went to Dental Monitoring's national event in Tampa, the great Dr. Mark Olson, who's been with Right Chat and New Patient Group for years, he came out dressed as Indiana Jones, and he was talking about the concept of going all in, which is a podcast topic at some point we'll be doing here, because if you want to use your outsource partners, this is totally off the point, but if you want to use outsource partners and you want to maximize that, you've got to go all in. Like with remote monitoring, you can't say, well, I'm going to do these, but not these, because it's a totally different way of running the practice. So you've got to go all in. You've got the David Boschkins, the Regina Blevins, the Bob Skopaks, the Jep Pascals, the John Grahams, that ironically are all, customers in some form or fashion, with New Patient Group and or Right Chat. And you have great speakers in the industry. The point of what I'm talking about here is inevitably, if that's all you're hearing from, if that's all you're learning from, you're missing a universe of opportunity out there to continually deepen your learning process and learn how to make yourself unique in an industry that has become commoditized. And there's others, of course, I can't name them all, but just Jamie Reynolds, a great insight when he speaks into all kinds of things. Stu Frost, great insight when he speaks. And there's more. Boyd Whitlock. And again, New Patient Group and or Right Chat customers, they're the ones, ironically, that you should be up there watching speak, and they're the ones that are giving me what I talked about being the best compliment or close to it. One of the top compliments is everyone else I'm listening to is so outdated compared to what we hear you teach. Alyssa Carter, Bryn Cooper, there's two more. And shout out to you, Alyssa Carter, but one time, this was at OrthoFi's national event this year. Alyssa's in the audience, and she's seen me speak 1,000 times. Plus, she has to see my face all the time because she's a private client with New Patient Group, also with Right Chat. She told me after that, look, I've seen you talk about this same topic multiple times. It never gets old. I always learn something. And shout out, Alyssa, I really appreciate it. But this is the cool part about this compliment. Is these are our customers. These are the main speakers for all these big companies out there. And there's more that I'm not mentioning. If I forgot your name, I apologize. But these are the people inside your bubble that are learning from people outside the bubble. That's the ironic thing, don't you see? Is that these speakers that are up that you're watching, that I just named, they are learning from people like myself, our other team members with New Patient Group, that come from outside your universe. And that is why, among other reasons, they're so unique. That is why they're up there speaking about forward-thinking topics that you're not going to hear other clinicians or other in-industry consultants talk about. It's just the reality. If you want to learn marketing, go learn from people outside your bubble that are consumer experts, psychology experts, presentation experts on how to put all of that together and wrap it in a bow to where you're the most beautiful place when people are shopping. If you want to know, salesmanship skills and how to increase conversion, go to a sales event where real sales experts are talking, and you're going to learn things that absolutely blow your mind. Even if the event to most of the crowd is crap, you're still going to think it's amazing because it's still so much significantly better than what you're going to see with people talking on stage inside this industry. You know, for years, this is something I've tried to get, and companies that I have great relationships and speak for, to buy into. You know, it's, do you need to hear from clinicians? Of course you need to hear from clinicians. But here's the challenge, and this will be, I have a podcast, I don't know when I'm going to do it. It's in the notes, and it's the 5 ways your clinical peers are sabotaging your business success. And one of the 5 ways is what I'm about to talk about now. It just organically came up. Wasn't planning on talking about this now, but this is what happens. And this is why a lot of you out there have to really, really, really be careful. You know, it's always amazed me. And if you're listening and you are a clinician and you are a speaker, a couple things I'm about to talk about now that will make you a better speaker overnight. 1, if you're showing clinical cases, show your bad ones or ones where you just weren't happy and you had to go back and do certain CE or just kind of do more cases to get a clinical flaw, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it, you know, to be better and then eventually into, you know, perfection. One of the best things you can show the audience is your screw-ups. Very, very few of you do that. And you become human when you show your screw-ups. And this is the same thing on your business side. There was an event I went to one time, and this has happened multiple times actually, but this one's just on my mind. And I'm not going to call it out because it just wouldn't be the right thing to do. But this is what happens. You know, they have this expert panel, and the expert panel had like 6 doctors. Well, guess what? 5 of those 6 doctors were at our booth the day before telling us what a disaster their practice and their life is. Yet they're sitting up there on stage speaking for, you know, a very well-known company, talking about how great everything is. And I say to myself, isn't it ironic that they were complaining what a disaster they were yesterday, yet are up on stage today making the audience feel like everything's perfect? Well, this is the problem whenever you have just clinicians speaking at your organizations. Because one of the best things you can do as a clinical speaker or a speaker that is also a clinician is, just like I said, on the clinical side, show your bad cases and then teach people how you got better. And now here's the beautiful case. Because if you don't do that, what happens is a lot of people get intimidated. They're like, oh, geez, like this guy's doing or girl's doing nothing but great cases. You know, I tried this, I screwed it up, didn't like the results. And they freak out. They feel like they're inferior. They feel like they're not as qualified, and they shut down. This is why, you know, I've taught for years, in order to change somebody from one product to another in ortho, the standard way that the orthodontic industry thinks is we got to convince them it's better clinically. And the answer I've said over and over again is no, you don't. You've got to see is how does that make their life easier as an entrepreneur first, and if they buy into it, then you can show them the clinical side. It's actually reverse from how most go about it. Well, going back to the point, though, is that just like you want to show your not so great clinical outcomes, if you're on an expert panel out there and your business has chaos and you're not happy with it, you should tell the audience. Like, here's the problems I'm going through now, and I'm seeking help to figure these out. Because that's the sign of a true expert. Is experts, they hire coaches. There's a reason why one of the number 1 traits of billionaires is they have a business and life coach. Like, don't you think that you should have a coach that is working with you on an ongoing basis if billionaires do? Like, the smartest people in the world, they're the ones seeking help, period. But you've got to get up there on stage and you've got to discuss, you know, the chaos and the not so great things about your business, just like you've got to show some not so great clinical outcomes. That makes you a more relatable speaker. It opens up a lot of ears that otherwise will tune you out. But the point of me bringing us up too is a lot of you are going to these events, you know, you get in the audience, you watch the speaker, The speaker owns a practice. Let's say an orthodontist owns a practice, and you just assume that everything is great in their practice, and it's just not the case. You also get up there and think just because they say it works, you run back and you try to do it yourself. This is another thing I'm going to talk about on that, how your clinical peers are sabotaging your success, is there is a doctor that goes around teaching doctorless exams. And a lot of people go to the audience, they listen, they go back, and then they try to implement it, and their practice tanks. And I know the reason why it happens is because what this doctor does not tell you is that they are on purpose the cheapest out of all their opinions. They will go as low as it takes to get people to buy. You know, they talk about their call center and stuff like that. Their call center's terrible. You know, people, instead of mystery calling it, they just take the guy for his word. And he tanks so many practices out there who want to be the highest dollar of all the opinions. And if you want to be the highest dollar of, you know, people walking into 3, 4, 5 practices, doctorless exams does not work. Period. Now, you could do, and I, you know, when Dr. Jamie Reynolds and I speak, you know, they talk about something that's called less doctor exams rather than doctor lists. Like, you could learn how to refine your skill sets and your verbiage skills, because much of what you do as a doctor inside the exam is salesmanship. No different than your TC. No different than your assistant. Your assistants are not a clinical position. They're a people hospitality position that better damn well know how to handle situations. Whether someone's being non-compliant, how do you have the conversation with mom? If somebody's complaining, how do you overcome that and turn it into a good? You know, how do you place value on brushing your teeth properly, showing up to your appointments, scanning weekly, you know, if that's what you do as a practice, wearing the aligners properly? All of those are salesmanship discussions, period. There's no other way around it. They are salesmanship discussions that must be had in a way where that the presentation, the verbiage, the skill sets that they have come across to the person that's non-clinical, your customer, can interpret and see value in. And I say all these things, not to say you shouldn't go to these events, but one of my challenges to every single one of you out there is take a year off from your orthodontics bubble. Go to 3, or maybe not a year off, you know, maybe you go to the OrthoFi Nexus national meeting, you know, and maybe you pick one more, you know, as an example. And then, you know, your other 2 events, or how many events you normally do, you take your team and you take them and just go to an event that is completely nothing to do with orthodontics. Because you know what the ironic thing is it still all has to do with orthodontics. You know, there are so many wonderful ideas out there that all you have to do is go, I love it. That is brilliant. All right, how do we apply that into my practice? How do we apply that into my restaurant? How do we apply that into my plumbing office? Whatever it may be, all of those are commoditized. They're all people businesses. You're all in hospitality first. You know, one of the things that, I don't know if this is a podcast, but it's certainly a mindset shift, is, you know, the amount of CE a lot of you get to be better clinicians. You need to make sure that you're doing that equal amount on your business side as well, on the hospitality side, the experience side, all of that stuff. What I find a lot of times is clinicians will push themselves to do better and better and better from a clinical outcome standpoint, but do not apply that same methodology into what makes up 80+% of your business and inevitably gets people to buy, is the non-clinical things. And you may be going, oh, damn, Brian's right about that. You know, I do. And it's a big flip. But how many events are you taking your teams to? Yeah, a long time ago, this was, I don't know, season 4 maybe. And it's one of my favorite podcasts that I've done. And it's, you know, it sums up what we teach in many ways. And it was called the #1 marketing investment you'll likely never make, something like that. And the premise around it is, you know, inevitably when you're a practice that is attracted to our message, and this isn't 100% of the time, but the reality is most people are attracted to us Because what we do with practices is we set them up in a way from a digital marketing, first of all, from a culture and leadership standpoint, an overall business innovation mindset, entrepreneur mindset, how you look at numbers, how you lead, how you be an innovator. And once that's set up and proper, you have a foundation for everything else to work. How your digital marketing is, new patient call, before they walk in, when they walk in, digital work, all these journey things you hear me talk about on here. And inevitably our goal is how do you set it up to be a people business first? How does every interaction that you have and your team has with that would-be patient, how is it different? How does it add value? How does it increase in their mind how you're different? Which inevitably allows you to charge more. And that's what we try to teach. It's what I did with my plastic surgery practices. Is because you're in a commodity, which we were in plastic surgery back then, it's not as bad as orthodontics, it's not as bad as dentistry, but it's the same way of what I teach with Right Chat. Even back then, if you missed a phone call, they are not leaving a voicemail. With the one exception is if it's a very loyal referral. And how I looked at it back then was even if it's a very loyal referral, I want that call answered more than I want the other ones. Because how bad of a brand representation is it for your business if Janice goes to Judy, hey, they are great. They're on top of their stuff. Wonderful, from an experience standpoint. You got to go there. Judy picks up the phone and calls, rings 5 times, nobody answers. It makes you look like crap. Right? It's the first impression she just had after hearing how good you were. The first impression was, well, they sound the same as everybody else to me. Nobody even answered, which is how so many businesses operate. But back to the point where I was getting at a little bit ago was you have team members that are selling for you. And if you buy into what I'm talking about, higher dollar practice, less chaos, don't have to see as many people. The goal is turning your patient base into your sales force. They're the ones out there doing the advertising for you. These are things, revamping the job description so it's a customer first job description. Admin and all of those things outsourced out of your office. Very quiet. Very low stress. This is what we do to practices. And when you do that, you have to revamp a lot of things because the majority of you out there, you're chaotic even when you're not growing. And a lot of you out there who are growing and kicking butt, you want to kill yourself at the end of the day or when the morning begins from the previous day. You're already in that state. And it just doesn't have to be that way, but it will be as long as you go to the in-industry events and you listen to people jam more down your throat all the time. Right? More patients, more this, more team members, hire more. You've got to get this many team members based on this much production, and people teaching it as if it was 10 years ago. But when you set your business up the way I'm describing, you have and your prestige pricing, which is the top level, and you're intentionally the highest of all their opinions, or at least close, right? You have to remember that you have team members that are doing the selling that oftentimes, one, they can't afford what you're selling, and two, they haven't been to an experience-oriented place like a Ritz-Carlton, a Montage, a dinner for two that's $500 for a table for two. Since based on their pay scale, if they can't experience that stuff, it is literally impossible for them to grasp what the hell you're trying to accomplish when you hire a company like us. So one of the podcasts talked about, taking them, to maybe not an event, but taking them to a Ritz-Carlton for a 3-day stay, taking them to a restaurant where at a table for two, it's going to be $500, giving them a taste of what it is that you're describing, because when we describe experience and when you think experience, it's highly likely it's very different than what an hourly employee inside your practice is thinking. Again, not a shot at them. It's just a reality. Based on pay scale, they're not going to go to a dinner for two for $500. Well, that's the type of experience when we talk people business that we come put in your practice. When you have a table for two that's that expensive, trust me, the waiters know sales. They know how to get you to buy the bottle of wine that's $100 more than the one you're looking at. But they also know how to get you to feel damn good doing it, right? Same way with the desserts. Same way with the specials for the night. They know how to describe them in a way that's creating the images in your mind where you're going, hell yeah, I want that, right? And you feel really cool and special doing it, right? That is what we do. And that is why it allows you to charge more. But you are not going to learn how to be unique with your marketing, how to speak uniquely on the new patient phone call, how to set up your patient experience in a way that's so different than anyone else will commit to. You're not going to learn that inside the orthodontic bubble, dental bubble, whatever bubble you're in, from the speakers that are going on stage. You're just not. And this has been so hard for me to convince, and I don't know why. I don't know why when you look at your practice and you realize people could call 10 places within 2 miles of you to buy Invisalign, as an example. The case is usually the same with braces, whatever it may be, whatever treatment modality you choose to sell inside your practice. A lot of you out there decide to complain about that rather than actually get the coaching to allow you to use that to your very distinct advantage. Because I look at, competition. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing the air quotes, and I'm doing them air quotes because, one, I think that the more people in your area, the better. And I also think, two, this is the golden age of owning an orthodontic practice. And three, it gives you a very unique advantage because the more people that go in, they're going to do the same things. Their digital marketing is likely to not be so good. Their receptionist is going to say the same things everybody else does. Their digital workflow is going to be lacking. If they do scan every new patient with the iTero as an example, they don't use it properly from a salesmanship standpoint, the way they present money. If they say, hey, you're not clinically ready, and they put you in an OBS program, how they handle OBS. If you say, I need to speak with my spouse, how you handle pending treatment or how they handle pending treatment, how their website talks to you. Once you do maybe buy from them, what the existing patient experience looks like, they're not going to do anything unique. So when you do from A to Z, you absolutely crush them. You actually want people to go get another opinion because it will actually show them how different you actually are if your team knows how to sell it. You can't just use OrthoFi. You can't just use dental monitoring. You can't just use or maybe use remote monitoring through Invisalign. You can't just do Invisalign. You can't just use these outsource partners and expect the consumer to instantly see value in you. Your team has to know how to sell it. You've got to attend, and this is my challenge to all of you, you've got to start attending events that are outside your whatever you're in bubble. And you will be absolutely amazed at what you will learn and how much it will help your practice, both in the short and long term. And it's just like what I say. And when I speak, look, I'm friends with people in the industry. A lot of the reps are my good friends. I love this industry. Our customers are some of my really close friends, and I find that really awesome about our company is how close we are to our customers. It's abnormal. That's not normal for this industry or any industry, and I'm proud of it. But you are going to learn these things when you see me speak on stage, whatever inside the industry event that I'm speaking at. Those are the things that I teach. That's what we're going to be working on at MPG Iconic. It's already sold out. There is some special invites that I'm waiting for the podcast followers and subscribers. Right Chat customers that are not new patient group customers, there's going to be some spots for you as well. But this is a type event with MPG and Right Chat Iconic that is going to push your needle and bring you outside of your comfort zone more than you've ever been pushed inside whatever bubble you exist. Now, this event is specific for orthodontists, like I said, so we're not bringing any other type of doctor there unless they're a special invite for some reason. But if you want to be pushed, and this is not a podcast about MPG Iconic, but again, that's the reason I did this podcast and why I believe this event is so unique and could eventually be so big. When's the last time you brought your team to an event and actually implemented anything when you got back? Here's the reality. If your team is not spent role-playing and practicing the majority of the time, but rather just watching people on stage, they're not going to be able to do it when they get back. Neither will you, most likely. Let's learn you 3 new things to do in the doctor exam. You need to practice that. You need to role-play that. You need to see, and one of the cool things about MPG Iconic is, with our customers, we've had ones that have with us 8 years. We have customers that came aboard yesterday. Well, they're team members at a whole different level. So if the people that have been with us, 6 months, a year, 2 years, get to see people that have been with us 5 and their employees role play together, they're going to be able to see, wow, there is so much room where we can grow. And I cannot wait for the camaraderie to be brought together. The camaraderie with the doctors with MPG is so great, but now we can bring that same camaraderie, hopefully, with the employees and then some of the other special invites. But if you don't get a chance to come, that's okay, because there are other events out there designed for entrepreneurs, and that is what all of you are. You chose to run your own practice. You're a business owner, but there is a difference, and there's a podcast, the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur, and there are big differences, by the way, and I'm not going to dive heavily into it, but you have to make sure that you're going from business owner to entrepreneur, and that you're going from chief everything officer to chief executive officer, and there's not that many small business owners that learn how to do both. And these events will teach you how to do it. There's business mindset events, marketing events, sales events. There's ones that are all together, which is what MPG Iconic will be. I challenge you to find some and go. And like I said, even if the audience is like, yeah, this wasn't that good an event, it'll be amazing for you, because what you'll learn is still ahead of what you're going to learn from speakers inside this event. The majority of your practice is made up of non-clinical skill sets. I've been saying this over and over and over and over again for a decade. It's what made my plastic surgery practices kick butt. Yes, we were the finest clinically and we invested in the best. But nowhere, table for 2 for $500, a Ritz-Carlton or Montage, you would not have walked in any business on the planet and had a better experience delivered than what you got inside my plastic surgery operation. It's exactly what we're trying to do. It's sales through experience inside new patient group practices via every interaction the consumer has along their journey up to sale and throughout their journey in treatment. I challenge you to find at least one event in 2024 that you can take your team to that has nothing to do with orthodontics, dentistry, etc., and have those speakers take you out of your comfort zone and get your mind spinning on why so many things you're doing every single day is actually driving away sales, anchoring bias, and not getting into this, but just there's a teaching that we have on the financial presentation. And it's the 12 mistakes TCs make when presenting money, and all 12 are taught by in-industry consultants. There's 12 mistakes your receptionist is making on every new patient call. Those 12 mistakes are taught by in-industry consultants. Our new patient experience courses, all of these things will flip everything you've ever been taught completely upside down. And again, that's why it works. And so will these events. It could be the most outdated event the audience has ever been to, but you're still going to think it's ahead of anything you've been to inside orthodontics. And you're more likely to implement it because a lot of them are talking about, I have a podcast, The 4 Stages of Psychological Focus. And I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it at some time. We work on that with our new patient group customers. But the reality is it's one of the biggest and best traits of successful entrepreneurs is focus. They are able to keep a focus and become really great at something before moving on to bigger and better things. And most people, it doesn't mean that they're also not coming up with new ideas and innovating, etc., but they're able to keep the focus and become great at it. And you're going to learn how to do that at these entrepreneur events. You're not going to learn how to do that inside inside your orthodontic events because the speakers have issues. Just like I said, the expert panel that we're all at our booth going, my life's a nightmare, I need help. And boom, the next day they're up there teaching the audience how to do it. Which again, it doesn't make them not qualified. We all have our messes. But they don't tell the audience, I'm a mess. Look, here are things I'm doing great, but here are 5 things I just cannot figure out. And I encourage all of you to do what I'm doing. I'm seeking coaching. I'm working on those skill sets. See, that's coaching. That is being a leader and teaching things. It's not up there putting up a false picture about how everything is perfect. Because trust me, in these practices, it's not. Take that challenge, everybody. I hope you loved today's podcast. I hope you just like so many people reached out when I talked about that number one marketing investment you'll likely never make, and bringing your team to one of these places. This, I guess you could say, is a spinoff of this. It's the same thing, is start taking your teams to more of these events that are really going to push you out of bounds, push you out of the comfort zone, and it's going to move your needle, all right? Anyone's interested in those special invites from MPG Iconic, reach out. Put MPG Iconic 2024 in the comments section. We do not have a link for that event up yet. We may or may not. We certainly will in 25, but 24 has been pure word of mouth. It's already sold out except for those few I'm holding. So hopefully we get a few more special requests. Hope everyone liked today. Have a great September, everybody. And next podcast, you will see me in our new house in Colorado Springs. Thanks for all of your support out there. YouTube station, bye. Everyone else, bye. Take great care of your patients. We'll see you in October. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Brian Wright. Thank you so much for listening, and please visit newpatientgroup.com/free courses to get our latest on-demand video trainings for free. These are shot in 4K, exceptional quality, and we really want you to test out our content. So just go to newpatientgroup.com/free courses, sign up, and you'll learn some really amazing things. We would also like to answer your new patient phone calls with my company, Right Chat. We can be the primary and answer all of them, or we can be your saving grace, where the ones you miss, we will answer them as we're sitting at your front desk, your own employee, remotely log into your software and schedule that new patient, and they never even know a third party answered. It's a revolutionizing the answering service industry, and honestly made call services and answering services completely obsolete, because nobody will leave a message in this new economy. So if you use a call center or an answering service, switch to Right Chat as a game changer. We'll do it for 2 months free. We have our own in-house IT team that will hook everything up for you. Your software, your phones, your phone number. You don't have to change anything. The onboarding is simple. We make sure that process is streamlined. And when you hear my agents answer that new patient call, you're never going to want your own team to do it. And it'll be a great training when you listen to us. We'll be a great training to get your own people trained as well. Okay, so look forward to helping you out. I ask that you please write a 5-star review about the New Patient Group podcast on Apple or wherever you're listening to the podcast. And also write a 5-star review about New Patient Group and Right Chat online. That would really help us out. If you're watching on YouTube, give a thumbs up to the video, subscribe to our channel, put some comments in there how much you like it. And I would personally like to offer you your own free business and practice consultation with me, so we can chat about your business and I can personally prescribe something that is really going to help you thrive in this new economy of competition, commoditization, and consumerism. Once again, thanks for your support. We'll see everybody soon. Bye-bye.